Hello, welcome to the KMS wrap-up show. Today is December 2nd, 2020. The show's name is VFW in Vietnam. Very, I don't want to say controversial show today because it seems to be very one-sided in a certain someone's take on the show on a particular guest. I am joined today by Inspector Jay. Jay, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And Adam in Jersey of the Anal Show.
Shalom, Justin. What's going on?
What's happening, boys? So let's get right into it. So the show kind of started off today with, I do want to touch on I know everyone wants to get into the Carrabis-Toronto thing, but we're going to touch on that in just a couple minutes. But first I want to start off with the VFW letter. Started off, Kirk opens up his letter. He opens up Steve's letter. He thinks that the VFW gave too much praise to Steve. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I think it was. I mean, the VFW 100% of what happened goes to Kirk. I mean, it doesn't happen without him. I think they should rename the VFW instead of being like Lodge 606 or whatever it is. I think it should be Lodge KM. I mean, because he said he wants to not be Kirk Minahan show, just Kirk Minahan. I mean, you donate $40,000 and you promise to. I'm sure the show in July or whenever he said he's going to be back is going to be as big, if not bigger, because there's going, hopefully, knock on wood, there's going to be less COVID restrictions and stuff like that. But I think they should rename the lodge, rename the street, do something. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I think Kirk said it best that, he could have done this with anyone as his producer. He could have done this with you as his producer. He could have done this with, Moroso as his producer. If Steve was anywhere else and with anyone else, this wouldn't have happened. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely was interesting. Obviously, Kirk played it up, pulling the Nancy Pelosi move and ripping it up in their face. But, it's definitely a little bit of a slap in the face. Maybe they should put out a press release, give him the key to the building. Nothing is out of play here.
Give him the key to the building too. Do not give it to the Kirk Minahan show.
Correct. Give it to him. Give it to Kirk.
I think if sorry to cut you off. I think if Steve had been in studio, it would have gone a little bit different because although Kirk said, he's the best guy that he's ever worked with, the hardest worker, and he is. So granted, the hot dogs and beans got lost. Yes, it's Kirk's name on it. Yes, he played it up. I just hope he goes back there and not to Vietnam for the next next episode.
Vietnam would be a very I don't want to say troubling. I just think it'd be difficult in these days to get there. But I mean, who knows?
Well, all the dong talk.
Yeah, there might be some
too.
dongs to be made over there. But I think
dong. I said dong.
Yes, I know. There's plenty of dongs to be made over there.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
There are some VFWs around here in Jersey, and I'm happy to have him. I know that the Latino gang's happy to host him. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places to go.
Yeah. I do think so just real quick, just a quick plug. 7:00, the video, there was a problem with the audio. So today on the KMS Clips account is going up of the entire VFW portion of the show. So you'll be able to see Kirk rip up the letters, all that fun stuff, throw things everywhere. So anything else you guys want to talk about in regards to the VFW? I think that was kind of I will say, very strange that the show was named after this segment. I think very, very much so burying the lead here. And if you read the description of the show, does not mention the Carrabis thing until the last sentence of the paragraph. I think VFW in Vietnam, it was a good segment, but I think it really should have been Carano attacks Carrabis or something of that like.
He sucks at naming anyways. COVID strikes. Kirk didn't like that one. He's not very good at naming episodes. I don't think so.
I'll agree with that. I mean, I like Carano, but yeah, I don't think naming episodes is his strong point.
Well, let's just get right to it. Real quick, do you guys have anything you want to say about the Lego kid, Barstool Lego. I thought it was a fine interview. I mean, the kid's 15 years old. I couldn't imagine.
What are you going to do with him? I obviously I love the shout out for the explanation of his name. But it's once again just proof point of Kirk's talent that, he could even engage with this kid. It was just, the one word answers, the quick and shortness. It was a rough interview, I'm sure, from Kirk's perspective, but he made gold out of shit.
I think for me, I didn't even know about this Lego stuff, so I searched out the initial Kirk Lego. He looked like he had bedazzled jeans on or something. So I'm glad the kid got rid of those and put them behind a desk, and actually had a sense of humor, put a train on the desk. So I thought that was pretty good, and I took a look at some of the other Barstool Legos. So yeah, no, for a young kid, he handled it fine. And yeah, as Adam said, what are you going to do with a young kid like that? But I thought it was interesting, and it's good to see someone that age have some creativity, and maybe he can turn it into some real cash.
I will say,
were either of you surprised that he that he was homeschooled and that his family doesn't go out much, even outside of the pandemic?
No, I mean, I don't know the kid from a hole in a wall. I've never heard of him before.
Based on the interview,
the Erica thing. I mean, he seemed like a nervous 15-year-old kid. I mean, I can imagine when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school when I was 15, to be asked on suddenly 2 national podcasts that have thousands and thousands of listeners. I'm sure his friends. He told all his friends about it. He's nervous. He doesn't want to make a fool out of himself, which he completely did not. He just went on there and he threw a couple of jokes. I liked the thing about how when he corrected Kirk on how his name was spelled or pronounced. Mm-hmm. I think that was quite humorous. And I'm a man of humor. Everyone's been talking about my humor.
Oh my God, it's off the charts.
But
sorry, he was 15. I thought he was younger. Okay,
no, he said he was 15. So I mean,
so he's older than Kirk's kids, and I like the part where he says he doesn't do well with video games. So that was interesting too.
Very interesting. Yeah. Among Us is huge, though. Among Us is a very big game.
What is that exactly?
It's pretty much Clue, like who kills these people and someone's a killer. It's just I don't know. It's just a computer game. But let's move on to the big topic, which is Carano's takes on Carabas. And it seems to be kind of sweeping the Twitterverse. It's going back and forth. Carabas has responded. Let's just play. I just want to play a couple clips here from. So it all started off with Kirk was reacting to the wrap-up show yesterday, where I said I believe that Quantum Week Chris had the best first show in studio in KMS history. I completely forgot about Carabas when I was comparing it to like Steve or Mike, people that really weren't established in the KMS universe, or like when the show was just starting out. Like I wouldn't consider like when Big Cat came on in Florida, like was Quantum Week Chris better than Big Cat? No. Was he better than Casey Smith? No.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also think that, before we even get into all of this, it's a little bit of an unfair comparison to even begin with from Carano. Like, you can't judge someone like Chris, who is not a professional, on the same way that you would judge someone like Carabas, who deals with superstars all the time, wouldn't come in and be intimidated. I mean, there's just no way that you should be comparing apples to oranges like that. But even so, I mean, Carano was just out of his mind with his take. But I'll let you take the lead on this, Justin. And
I will say, I just want to play a clip here where before this all got started, Kirk was like, I have a feeling that Carano, you're going to take this personally. You're going to come in and defend your guy, which is right. I mean, they're best friends. He defends this guy. And Carano was big that he was not going to do that.
Okay.
Sorry,
we don't have to.
No, I'll talk. What are you fucking baby for? Relax. You're really going to get mad after I talk to Azari, because the other thing that's pissing me off is you're going to take personally, I think.
I doubt it.
I think you're going to take it.
You think so?
Yes, I think you're going to take it personally. You shouldn't, but I think you're going to be a fucking cunt about it.
So who thinks Carano took it personally?
Well, he's not his best friend. He admitted he has no friends, number one, the other day.
Who?
Carano.
Oh, well,
He
they
said
seem to be pretty close. I mean,
no, but I think just because of the pod, Chris said he has friends that he hangs out with. He doesn't really hang out with him. But before we delve into it deeper, Justin, I think you're missing not a bigger point, but a big point that Kirk listened to all of your show all the way through yesterday. So that's kudos to you.
oh well, I hope it keeps going. Oh,
Hope it
here we go.
continues.
We bring up Kirk's name, and here we go.
I'd be shocked if he made it through 2 minutes of this.
Very
No,
I mean,
I don't think he does. Listen, I've fallen into the same trap where on Twitter I'll jump into wars to defend some of my guys. But I mean, listen, Kirk spelled it out. He knew that this was going to happen. I don't know if Carano was necessarily cunty about it, but he certainly was a little sensitive about it and trying to protect his boy.
And I have a couple other clips I just want to play here of just kind of, Carano taking some shots at Carabas, some might say. Here we go. Here's the...
Oh, Carabas is much better.
Bullshit.
Oh, Carabas. Oh,
Carabas is not interesting at all.
Ooh, Carabas is great in this show.
No,
I love
not.
Carabas. Oh, you are nuts.
He plays on his phone.
You're nuts.
No one gives a shit about his girlfriend in California. It's not a girlfriend. Will never talk about it. They don't give a shit. No one gives a shit.
Your reading of the show is so wrong. People love Carabas.
My reading of the show is wrong.
That's one of your moves, where you just repeat the last thing I said because you have nothing to add to the conversation.
I fucking love you. Your move is you go to a fucking commercial break when you're like, oh, I don't know.
Now
if
it's
I wanna
suddenly
think
all
about
flipped
it.
on
So you
Kirk.
give yourself a little bit of time.
I have ones to do during the show.
Yeah, you do that to pattern breaks.
I'm
so you can think about
prostituting
it.
myself, for $4 a month. I do reads.
$4 a month.
Whatever the
$5
Patreon, whatever it is.
Yeah, you haven't signed
You
up
don't
yet
like
either.
Carabas on the show?
I don't think Carabas has talent at all.
Oof.
I think he's
him.
I don't have any issue with him. I just know talent when I see it.
Oof. There we go. Carano. Should he be the new program director of the Kirk Minahan universe?
Wow,
he says he knows
he's a content machine. He said this week, so he thinks he knows every goddamn thing. I mean, that's so far off. And as you guys are saying, Chris, number one, he's not a professional. I've said this about Mike before too. When they talk about Mike, I'm like, he's not a professional. Kirk, professional. Steve, professional. Carabas, professional. These people have been doing broadcasting in various places, different formats for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's ludicrous to try to make any type of comparison between a professional broadcaster and someone who's just popping in the studio. And I don't know where the hell this is coming from other than, okay, it's his buddy on Quantum Week, or he wants to get more Patreon suckers. It just makes zero sense.
I like Carano. I like Chris. I think they're both really nice guys. I've had great interactions with them. I've also had good interactions with Carabas. I met him a couple of times. It's a little name drop there. But, what really actually bothered me more than anything else, and I don't know if you have this clip, Justin, is when Matt said that the difference between Chris and Carabas is that Carabas has had more opportunities. So I don't know if anyone,
I have that somewhere here.
if either of you know Carabas's backstory, and Kirk definitely said that Carabas took those opportunities and made it good with them, but he didn't just get opportunities. They weren't just handed to him. He was a kid, an 18-year-old kid, and he made
was younger than
all
that.
these opportunities. I mean, he was making these opportunities for himself. He got himself where he is. He worked his ass off. He ate shit for a while. Like, he really deserves it. And so, to just compare the two together, it is just, it boggles my mind.
Yeah, it's very concerning to say you are a great judge of talent and suddenly Jared Carabas is one of the least talented people. Nice guy, but just terrible talent. He has a huge following that has nothing to do with, we've been talking about people piggybacking and all this other stuff, has nothing to do with Kirk Minahan, or nothing to do. He would have been successful if he went and did his own thing somewhere. If he left Barstool and had Jared Carabas Media or whatever, he would be successful. I have a couple of friends who are huge. I don't know what they call themselves. They call themselves like section 9ers or section 10ers or whatever it is, but they're huge fans. I think to be able to say that Carabas, who I find interesting, I'm not a huge baseball guy. But I find a lot of what Carabas does is interesting. I think he brings in an entirely different perspective on certain things going on in the game. He, like, obviously, yeah, he's a diehard fan. I know Carabas Carano called Carabas a suck puppet for the Red Sox, which seems to just be the kind of like the go-to attack when you want to attack Carabas. You just say he likes the Red Sox. Think like, Kirk, you don't like the Red Sox. I mean, what are you going to say about that?
And by the way, just to jump on that for a second, Carabas actually has been posting recently on Twitter a lot about how he's not a really big fan of the Red Sox anymore, and he's now more of a overall baseball fan, and that's in line with more of what he's doing there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, if you pay attention to what Carabas does, I mean, CCK, he doesn't talk about baseball. He's never talked to, like, he's maybe 2% of the conversation when he's been on the Kirk show has been about baseball. Like Kirk said, he's talked more about baseball in regards with Quantum Week Chris about, Schilling getting to the Hall of Fame and all these other Hall of Famers yesterday than he did with Carabas. And to say that Quantum Week Chris will be better at talking baseball than Jared Carabas, who literally does this for a living, who has interviews with baseball players. He's in their personal lives. He does all these other things. Call him what you want. Call him a suck pump for the Red Sox or whatever you want. But that's just to say that it's just living in a fantasy world. And when I first listened to that, my first thought was, holy shit, Carano does not listen to the show every day. That was my first thought when I heard him say Quantum Week Chris is way more talented than Carabas. He needs to come back in studio again. Even I didn't say that yesterday. I think it would be fine to have him back in once a month because I think he's really good at like pop culture and movie takes. I'm not super interested in pop culture or movie. I actually don't listen to Quantum Week. I support those guys. I hope their Patreon does very good. I just have no interest in old movies and old songs.
Wait, didn't Carano say that you did though?
Yes, he confirmed on the show today that I am a listener. I listen if there's a show a movie that I'm very interested in, but I normally have no interest in. If you're not covering Star Wars Episode 3, I'm not really going to talk about it.
Jesus Christ.
So,
well, can I just say, again, I think Chris did a fine job. I think you did oversell it a little bit. Again, Chris isn't a professional. I think he's great on Quantum Week, and Kirk can make anyone an insanely talented and an interesting person. But have any of you spoken to any Minifans that don't like Carabas? Now, I spoke to many in the beginning when Carabas first came on the scene, last month or so, or a couple months ago when he first started doing some shows, that didn't like him because they thought of him as the baseball guy.
The Red Sox guy, yeah.
But none of that. But even after that, after a few episodes, a lot of them have said that they are, big fans of him and he is great. Matt said that he's been hearing from everyone that they don't like Carabas. He's not great. Have you guys heard any of that?
A bunch of bullshit. He doesn't tell the truth a lot. And I know more people that say they love Carabas because, number one, it's a third voice on the show. Kirk said he's a blank slate. He's a dummy. He doesn't know a lot of things, just like Mike doesn't know a lot of things. The whole thing with the Andrea, the girlfriend, that was a ton of fun.
That was great.
And, yeah,
awesome.
So it adds, a different layer to the show. And yeah, veterans fucking win. He comes up with that thing. I mean, come on, it's great. So why? There's so many people that I know are so happy to have him in there. Just the opposite.
Yeah. And with the Andrea thing, I also think that that's a big part of what we all love about Kirk in general. Like the fact that it's not come talk about 3 topics or 4 topics and just talk about the news and this and that. Mm-hmm. It's bringing in real life, and it's the fact that Kirk doesn't want to come in and be fake, and he wants to be authentic, and he wants to talk about things that are happening in everyone's life and things like that. So between how uncomfortable it was with Carabas at first with the Andrew stuff, and then to what it got to, I personally thought it was very entertaining and it was great. So
His mom cleaning his apartment,
yeah.
you know,
it's
running
hilarious.
across Route 1 in Saugus to get to the Kowloon. It's fucking
Yeah.
hilarious.
And
And he
like,
plays along with it. He doesn't care what Kirk makes fun of.
Yep.
yeah, and I think there was one point in the show today. I think I have the clip somewhere where where he talks about how Chris got him to talk about his contract. Here we go.
Hard hitting on me and critical.
No, but talking about your contract is obviously could be uncomfortable, and you gave us more information than you normally do.
Am I ever
with that.
uncomfortable talking about my contract?
Yes, you are. You definitely.
My contract.
You avoid stuff. Yes, you do.
About my contract?
Yeah. I know your pattern. I'm watching you from this booth. I know your patterns. This is what happens.
I talk about my contract.
When you're
I
uncomfortable
guarantee you, I talk about my contract
now
more than anybody in the history of media other than Howard Stern.
No.
I
You are
endlessly talk about it.
way.
That's where I really said, holy shit, I don't think Carano listens to the show. Kirk would bring up his contract like once every 2 weeks. He always says, you know, Barstool's paying him a great salary, you know. I mean, it's coming up soon. It's coming up in 6 months. So he talked about it yesterday. He's talked about it before. We all know that he's on a 2-year deal with a 1-year option. I mean, to say that, you know, he doesn't like to bring it out, and, you know, Quantum Week Chris somehow manipulated him into talking about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have talked about it. I just think it's insane. And I think a regular listener of the show, I'm sure Carano listens, but to me, a regular listener of the show would not claim that Kirk likes to hide things. He's very open about his personal life. I mean, he talks about things like how he wants to run over old ladies in the street or whatever who are giving him smirks and shit like that. There's really not much that's off topic for Kirk. I mean, to say that Carano somehow like is this master, or Chris was this master manipulator who got Kirk to talk about things he normally wouldn't have talked about is legitimately insane.
No, he always talked about bonus checks at EEI. I think he said he was making over $1 million a year recently there. So yeah, again, it's just the opposite. And we could go on all day. You know, it's going to sound repetitive, but he's just a bullshitter and is pushing for a subscription service. And I did think it was funny today that they, you know, if Steve didn't come back, if he died from COVID or something, you know, that, well, you'd be in the running, Matt, but, you know, we would still have to look at other backup producers. So
let me
Yep. Well, you know, listen, you want to
No, I would never hope that. No.
You're talking about
Adam,
oh, sorry.
I would not assume.
Who else would you give it to?
What do you mean?
Who else would you
Well,
give it
it then becomes a full-time job where then other people would apply for it.
Yeah, but who would you give it to?
Would you be crushed if I gave it to someone else?
I would feel a little disappointed. Yeah, of course I would. I want.
You'd
Yeah,
be crushed. Then
I would.
I'd probably give it to someone else.
I'd move on.
Okay, but it would be worth it just to crush. You should.
You don't want to crush me.
Well, you would be the favorite. You'd be the betting favorite for sure. I don't even know who the other candidates would be right now.
Exactly.
I mean, Justin.
and I think that's interesting. Me personally, I don't know if Carano could last a full-time producer. After today's show, the first thing I thought of is, do you guys think he could have survived the Steve Robinson attack when Kirk went to Fenway and didn't cut everything up and he had to he had to, you know, take phone calls for 2 hours where people just shit all over him? I can't see Carano doing that. I think here we go. Another hot take by Justin. I think Carano is I don't want to say egotistical. I think he's one of the most self-indulgent people that have ever been on the Kirk Minahan show. He's very, very, very high opinion of himself. Even when Kirk says like, hey, like, don't screw up the calls like last time, he refuses to acknowledge he ever screwed up the calls and all these other things. I don't see Carano taking a bad day working with Kirk well, which he really hasn't had. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think he'd be able to handle it, or what do you think he'd be able to bounce back and take it like Steve did, or do you think he would just falter and go to the win?
I think he would crumble. He's got a very thin skin. You know, I am not a fan, and mainly it's because people will say, who gives a shit if he blocked you on Twitter? He blocked a ton of people. I've always been nice to him. I was nice to him at not Madawaska, at Saco. Him and his wife, very nice people. I was nice to him at Milton's. And next thing I know, I'm blocked. Oh, yeah, all these guys are assholes. I never said a bad thing about the guy. So he's very thin-skinned. I think he would crumble, no question at all. I don't think he would be able to take that criticism.
Which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with being thin-skinned. I just don't think he believes he has a thick skin, but you don't, which is fine.
Thin skin is not, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. In Kirk's world is very difficult. And I feel bad for you, Justin, because you're a young guy and you take a lot of crap, and it's been hard on you. And I've said it.
I've been fine.
No, I don't. You've had issues, and I'm not going to get into everything, but there are times when Kirk pushes people over the edge, and either you got to roll with that, or you're going to be crushed.
Well, I think actually it's not necessarily the thin skin issue in my opinion. I think it's more that he pushes back, and I think that's what you were talking about, Justin, with the ego. And I think it's actually because of how comfortable he feels with Kirk, and how he's trying, I think, to go above and beyond and try to not look bad at this, and try to not look like he's nervous and not be overcome with, oh my god, it's Kirk. And I can't imagine what it's like to record in a studio with him, but so even from day one, the first time he was on the show, he would push back on Kirk, and I think what would happen is he would not understand that it's the time to shut the fuck up, and that it's not the time to push back, and that's where I think he would run into problems. In terms of blocking people, I mean, I don't necessarily block people. I block, I think, like 2 people, and both of them are Zonker. And I think other than that, though, I have recently started muting people, and it is a delight. It is just wonderful to, not have to see some people on Twitter all the time. So I get it, and I don't care so much about that. But I do think it would be an issue if, it were going to come in the way of the show. I think if it was going to impact the show, and it might if he's actually a producer of the show, which he's not, but if he were a producer, maybe then it would be an issue. But Jay, also before you were talking about and describing Carano, some would say that the way you described him, he lies, he's pushing for a subscription service and to get in on that money. It sounds like you're talking about Steve or Carano, right? Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I love Steve, but
no, I could give a shit if I'm blocked. Again, to me, it's personal, because, like I said, I go up and introduce myself to people and say, hi, how are you doing? Nice to meet you, Justin. I haven't met Adam, but anybody that I went up to in Saco and said, hey, nice to meet you, great job, this and that. Oh, all Minifans suck. I only blocked block this one, that one. But so it's just another lie to me.
To bring it back, to more centered on today's episode, I think it's fine if you block people. But there was a point today where he says, Kirk, have you not seen what the Minifans are saying online on Twitter? They're saying that Chris was the greatest ever. They're saying all I see is hate from the Minifans. It's like, Carano, you do realize you don't see any of this hate towards Quantum Week Chris, because you have them up blocked, right? It's like, and I think he said at one point, he's like, oh, there's only 14 Minifans and they live in a bubble. It's like, they might live in a bubble, but also, would you not say that you are also currently living inside your own bubble, which is perfectly fine?
But Justin, I think that also is the same issue that a lot of people run into a lot in this world, where people think that, because Kirk makes a joke or because Kirk does something, so Kirk always, ribs on that 14 group and, says that there's only 14 people who are complaining. It's the same 14 people, and, they all complain. And then you hear the people, oh no, it's more than that. I think it's also, it partially becomes the fact that people then think that, oh, well, if Kirk can make that joke and it's funny, then so can I. And, I think that it definitely plays into it. But I agree. And that's, kind of what I was saying before, where, if it's impacting the show, where if you're going to say that you're, going to know the voice of the Minifans, then you can't have that many people blocked. That's where I think it's a problem, because again, you don't have a good read of the Minifans.
And to wrap things up, we're hitting the 30-minute mark here. I want to get your guys' predictions for. Apparently, they are recording tomorrow night, but it is going to drop on Friday. I want to start with Inspector J. How do you think the Carrano-Carabas showdown is going to go?
Well, Jared has already taken some retorts on Twitter, and I think it's maybe going to be double-barreled back at Carrano. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be fun for Matt, and I'm hoping that it isn't, because none of us, like we said pre-show, I haven't seen anybody who's taken his side, especially Kirk. So it will be interesting for sure.
Adam.
Have either of you seen any of the Carabas versus Hubs videos or anything over the years for the Red Sox Yankees stuff?
I've seen certain. I know they have like a feud going on.
So Carabas can be just as brutal to people as Kirk is, and
I'm looking forward to that. Then
he is going to come with bombs ready, and I expect it to be hysterical. I expect it to be hilarious, and I expect a lot of back and forth and snide comments, and just underlying jokes. It'll be good.
I think for the Friday show, Aiden Kearney will be making a guest appearance as Matt Carrano, because he is going to turtle. I see him walking it back, him saying, it was all just a joke. I don't think he's going to say what he said today. I don't think he's going to say about how he's no talent. I think there's no chance that Matt Carrano goes in with as fire takes as he did today. I think he was caught kind of off guard today. He was defending his guy. I think he's going to realize, hey, say what you want to, Carrano's not a fighter. He's not, when it gets down to, the down and dirty, he doesn't like to get into fights. If people go personal or, attack him for certain things, he doesn't like that, which is perfectly fine. But I could definitely see Jared Carrabas just coming in and just being like, okay, let's do it. You think I'm just some baseball hack? Let's go, guy. And I think Carrano turtles during the Friday show. So that is my prediction for what goes on. Tomorrow's show, we have Steve from Providence and Tim in Canton will be joining up in Watertown. I'm excited for that. Real quick, I think those two have great chemistry. I think neither of them are going to be nervous around Kirk. I think they're going to both be, they both do it for fun. They're not trying to turn this into a career. They do have a new podcast, Decent Signal, which is the podcast without a podcast. But it's I can't wait. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think they did a great job when Kirk was on the OG Minifans months ago when he did his YouTube run. So I'm really excited for it. I'm a big fan of all of them. So very, very excited for tomorrow.
What are they doing? Peggy Lawton cookie delivery? Is that part of it?
That's right. So
I always like those guys. Thanks.
Last thing I want to say as we wrap up tonight on the network, we have 6:00. There is a new Super Lemon Haze coming out. 7:00 on the Clip Show. I'm going to be putting the VFW video up there. That should be a good 9 minutes on. You can kind of see Kirk, reacting to the letter he received from him and Steve. At 9:00, we have the Channel Zero boys are back, and they're looking for a third seat. And so they have some auditions going around. So this is the first audition tape. And that's pretty much it. Last thing, I am working on getting this into a podcast format. It's going to be exclusively on YouTube the day of the show, but I hope to get it. I'm in the process of working to get it to drop on midnight. So if you wanted to listen to the wrap up before tomorrow's show, you'll be able to do that through your favorite podcast, whatever. But thank you everyone for joining us today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks so much, Justin.